The stars around Earth filled with ships. Not dozens, not hundreds. 500 warships appeared in perfect formation, blocking out entire sections of the night sky. Each vessel stretched longer than 3 city blocks, covered in weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Their hulls gleamed with the dark metal alloy that marked them as property of the Galactic Enforcement Fleet. Inside the command ship, Supreme Commander Ravik stood before the viewing screen with his 4 arms crossed behind his back. His species had conquered 40 star systems. His fleet had never lost a battle. Today would add one more victory to his record. "Open a channel to the planet," Ravik said. His translator converted his clicking language into something the humans could understand. "All frequencies. I want every living thing down there to hear this." The communications officer nodded. A moment later, a light on the console turned green. Ravik's voice boomed across every radio.
"Television and communication device on Earth. Attention,
humans of planet Earth. I am Supreme Commander Ravik of the Galactic Enforcement Fleet. Your world has been selected for integration into the galactic community. You have 24 hours to surrender all military forces, dismantle your weapons, and submit to our authority. If you comply, your species will be allowed to continue existing under our guidance. If you refuse, we will cleanse this planet and start fresh with a more cooperative species." The message repeated in every human language. Ravik watched the planet below, expecting to see the lights of cities dim as panic spread. He expected emergency broadcasts, military mobilization, perhaps even some desperate attempt at evacuation. Instead, nothing changed. The lights stayed on. The traffic kept moving. It was as if 500 warships had not just threatened to wipe out their entire civilization. "Sir, we are receiving a response," the communications officer said. A human face appeared on the screen. The man looked young, maybe 30 or 40 years by human standards. He wore a simple gray suit with a small blue pin on his collar. His black hair was neatly combed and his eyes showed no trace of fear. "Good evening, Commander Ravik. My name is Deho. I represent Earth's unified government in matters of interstellar diplomacy." The human spoke calmly, as if discussing the weather. "We received your message. Thank you for the advance notice." Ravik felt his second pair of arms twitch with irritation. "You have 24 hours, human. I suggest you begin evacuation procedures." Deho tilted his head slightly. "I appreciate the generous timeline, Commander, but I'm afraid we must decline your offer." The bridge went silent. Ravik's officers exchanged confused looks. Thalos, his second-in-command, stepped closer to the screen as if he had not heard correctly. "You decline?" Ravik's voice rose. "Do you not understand the situation? We have 500 warships. Your entire species could be ash by tomorrow. You have no fleet capable of opposing us. You have no allies. You have no choice." That was when Deho smiled. It was not a large smile, just a small curve at the corners of his mouth. But something about it made the temperature on the bridge feel colder. "We understand perfectly, Commander. We simply choose to refuse. I would actually like to suggest an alternative. You and your fleet should leave our system within the next 24 hours. If you do so peacefully, we will consider this incident a misunderstanding. No harm done." Ravik's skin changed from its normal green to a dark purple that indicated rage in his species. "You dare threaten us? You insignificant creatures barely crawled out of your own atmosphere a few centuries ago. We have been traveling the stars for 10,000 years. We have weapons that can burn continents. We have soldiers trained since birth for war. What do you have?" Deho's smile never changed. "We have ourselves, Commander. That has always been enough. You are insane. All of you. Your entire species has lost its collective mind." Ravik cut the transmission with a slash of his hand. Thalos moved to his commander's side. "Sir, should we begin attack preparations?" "No. Let them stew in their fear for the full 24 hours. I want them to watch our ships in their sky and know that death is coming. I want them to regret their arrogance." Ravik turned to stare at the planet below. "Foolish creatures. They will learn." But as the hours passed, something strange happened. Or rather, nothing happened. Earth's governments issued no emergency declarations. No soldiers mobilized in the streets. No ships attempted to flee the planet. The humans simply continued their normal lives. In cafes, people drank coffee and discussed the alien fleet like it was an interesting news story. Children went to school. Workers reported to their jobs. A few groups gathered in parks to look up at the alien ships through telescopes. treating it like a celestial event rather than an existential threat. Thelos spent the waiting period reviewing every piece of intelligence they had on humanity. The file was surprisingly thin for a species that had been observed for decades. Most of it focused on humanity's rapid technological progress and their strange habit of sending peaceful messages into space, despite having no idea what might answer. One note caught his attention. It was written by a scout who had visited Earth's system years ago. Recommend caution. Humans originate from a Category 12 death world. High gravity, unstable climate, extensive predator population. Species exhibits unusual persistence and pack coordination. Advise further study before contact. The note had been dismissed by the analyst who reviewed it. Category 12. Death worlds rarely produced spacefaring civilizations because most species died out before developing technology. The fact that humans survived their own planet was considered a statistical anomaly, nothing more. Thelos was not so sure. He watched the live feeds from Earth's surface. He saw humans laughing, working, living as if doom was not hanging in their sky. That was not the behavior of a species in denial. That was the behavior of a species that knew something the aliens did not. Commander, Thelos said carefully, perhaps we should request additional intelligence before we proceed. Ravik dismissed the suggestion with a wave. They are bluffing, trying to seem brave to maintain morale. When we begin the attack, they will break like all the others. But even as Ravik spoke those words, he felt a small seed of doubt plant itself in his mind, because Deho's smile stayed with him. It was not the smile of someone bluffing. It was not the smile of someone afraid. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. A smile that said, "You made a terrible mistake, and soon you will understand why." As the deadline approached, Admiral Myung stood in Earth's orbital command center. She was a small woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations except for a single star on her collar. Around her, officers worked quietly at their stations, preparing for what came next. "Admiral, the alien fleet is adjusting their formation," a young officer reported. "They appear to be preparing for assault operations." Myung nodded slowly. "Expected. Maintain Condition 2 readiness. Do not power up weapon systems yet. Let them make the first move." "Ma'am, shouldn't we evacuate the cities? Get people to shelters?" Myung turned to look at the officer. Her eyes were calm, patient. "And tell me, Lieutenant, where would they go? If the aliens use planetary bombardment weapons, no shelter on Earth would save anyone." She paused. "We win this fight or we do not. There is no middle option. Panicking our people serves no purpose." The lieutenant swallowed hard but nodded. The admiral's logic was cold but correct. On the flagship horizon, Captain Jinho walked through the corridors, checking on his crew. They were young, most of them. Volunteers who signed up knowing that service in the fleet might mean exactly this situation. But they showed no fear. They joked with each other, checked their equipment one final time, and waited for the order. "Captain," one of them called out, "is it true the aliens gave us a surrender deadline?" Jinho stopped and smiled. "Yes," we politely declined. The young crew member grinned. "Good. Would have been disappointed if we missed the chance to show them what humans can do." Jinho clapped him on the shoulder and continued his rounds. That was the thing about humans, he thought. They did not surrender. It was not in their nature. 10,000 years of human history proved one simple truth. Humanity would rather die fighting than live on their knees. The deadline passed. Ravik watched the chronometer on his display tick down to 0. Earth had not surrendered. Earth had not even responded to the second warning he sent. "Begin the operation," Ravik commanded. "Target their orbital installations first, then their military bases. Show them the price of defiance." The fleet moved forward in perfect formation, weapons charging, ready to deliver death to the stubborn species below. And on Earth, in the command center, Admiral Myung took a slow breath and gave the order that would change everything. "All ships, Condition 1. Weapons free. Show them why we smiled." The alien fleet advanced through the darkness of space like a slow-moving storm. Their ships formed 3 perfect waves, each one designed to overwhelm any defense through sheer concentrated firepower. Ravik stood on his command bridge, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. In his 10,000 years of military service, he had never seen a species survive this formation. "Distance to optimal firing range?" Ravik asked. "Approaching now, Commander. Weapons will be in range in 3 minutes." Ravik nodded. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. His scanners showed no significant military response from Earth. A few orbital platforms had powered up, but they were laughably small compared to his fleet. A handful of human ships floated near the planet, but none of them had moved into defensive positions. "Sir, we are receiving another transmission from Earth," the communications officer announced. "Ignore it. They had their chance to—" "Sir, the human is already on screen." Ravik turned to see Admiral Myung's face displayed before him. The human woman looked even less concerned than the diplomat had been. Her expression was calm, almost peaceful. "Commander Ravik," Myung said in a steady voice, "this is your final opportunity to withdraw. I am transmitting this message as a courtesy, not as a negotiation. You have made a critical error in judgment, and I am offering you the chance to correct it before lives are lost." Ravik laughed. It was a harsh clicking sound that his translator rendered as genuine amusement. "You offer me a chance? Human, in 2 minutes your orbital installations will be destroyed. In 10 minutes your military bases will be ash. In 1 hour your largest cities will burn. You have nothing to offer but your unconditional surrender." Myung tilted her head slightly, studying him through the screen. "I see. Then I wish you and your crews luck, Commander. They will need it." She paused and then added, "Thank you for giving us advance warning. It was considerate." The transmission ended. Ravik felt that same uncomfortable feeling from before, the one he had felt when Deho smiled. Why did these humans keep thanking him? Why did they speak as if they held the advantage? "Sir, we are in firing range," the weapons officer reported. "All ships, open fire. Destroy their orbital platforms." The darkness of space lit up with energy beams and projectile weapons. 500 ships unleashed their fury at once, targeting the small defensive stations that orbited Earth. The platforms exploded in sequence, blooming like deadly flowers against the black. "Direct hits confirmed. All orbital targets destroyed," the weapons officer said with satisfaction. Ravik allowed himself a moment of triumph. "You see? Their defenses crumble like sand. Continue forward. Target the planet's surface installations." But Thalos was studying his scanner with a frown. "Commander, the human ships are not retreating." "What?" "The fleet vessels we detected earlier. They are still holding position near the planet. They have not powered weapons, they have not raised shields, and they have not attempted to flee." Ravik pulled up the tactical display. Thalos was right. Approximately 60 human vessels remained in a loose formation at the edge of Earth's gravity well. They were small compared to his warships, maybe a tenth of the size. They just floated there like debris. "They know they cannot win, so they have given up already," Ravik said. "Pathetic. Destroy them. Targeting human vessels now, Commander." The alien fleet adjusted its aim. Energy weapons charged for a second volley. But before they could fire, something changed. The human ships moved. Not slowly, not cautiously. They moved like lightning, accelerating at speeds that should have turned their crews to paste from the G-forces. In less than 3 seconds, the 60 ships transformed from sitting targets into a chaotic swarm of attackers that dove straight into the alien formation. "Evasive action," Ravik shouted, but it was too late. The human ships scattered in every direction, moving in patterns that made no sense. They did not fly in formation. They did not follow any tactical doctrine Ravik recognized. Each ship operated independently, choosing its own targets, its own attack vectors. It was chaos given form. The first alien ship died without warning. A human vessel appeared beneath it, having somehow slipped through their sensor net and fired a weapon directly into its engineering section. The warship split in half, its reactor going critical. The explosion took out 2 nearby vessels. "Report," Ravik demanded. "How did they penetrate our defenses?" "I do not know, sir. Their ships are too fast. Our targeting systems cannot lock on. They are moving at velocities that should be impossible for vessels that size." More human ships struck. They fired and moved, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. Their weapons were small, but they hit with precision, targeting reactor cores, weapons banks, and command bridges. Each shot counted. Each attack was perfectly calculated. Captain Jinho stood on the bridge of the horizon as his ship screamed through space at 12 Gs. Around him, his crew worked their stations with practiced efficiency. The ship's artificial gravity absorbed most of the acceleration, but they could all feel the strain. No alien species could survive this kind of movement, but humans had evolved on a high-gravity world. Their bodies could handle stress that would kill softer species. "Target the command carrier on the left flank," Jinho ordered. All power to forward weapons. I want to crack that ship open. Sir, they are firing on us. Dodge it. The horizon twisted impossibly, sliding sideways through space in a maneuver that should have been physically impossible. The alien weapons fire passed through the empty space where they had been a half-second earlier. Jinho's gunner did not miss. Their plasma lance struck the alien command carrier's shield and burned through it like paper. Their shields are stronger than ours but slower to recharge, Jinho noted. Mark that for all ships. Sustained fire on single targets. Do not let their shields recover. The battle raged across a three-dimensional battlefield that spread across thousands of kilometers. To an outside observer, it looked like madness. The aliens moved in their practiced formations, trying to bring overwhelming firepower to bear. The humans ignored formations entirely, attacking from every angle at once. On Earth's command center, Sun-Hee stood before a holographic display that showed the entire battle in real time. She was in her 50s, her hair showing streaks of white, but her mind worked with the speed of a supercomputer. She saw patterns in the chaos. She saw opportunities. Strike Group 7, the enemy command ship in Sector 4, is isolated. Bring it down. Strike Group 3. Enemy reinforcements are moving to support their eastern flank. Intercept and delay them. Do not engage directly, just slow them down. Her orders transmitted instantly. The human ships responded like a single organism with 60 bodies. They were not chaos. They were precision disguised as chaos. Every movement, every attack, every retreat was calculated by Sun-Hee and her tactical team. Ravik watched his fleet disintegrate piece by piece. His ships outnumbered the humans 8-1, but it did not matter. His crews could not hit what they could not track. His formations meant nothing when the enemy refused to engage in formation. How many ships have we lost? He demanded. 73 confirmed destroyed. Another 42 damaged and withdrawing. Sir, we are losing this battle. That is impossible. We have superior numbers, superior weapons, superior... An explosion cut him off. A human ship had somehow gotten close enough to launch physical projectiles directly at his command vessel. The missiles struck the shield generators, overloading them. Alarms blared across the bridge. Thelos grabbed his commander's arm. Sir, we must withdraw. We are not prepared for this type of combat. The humans fight like nothing we have encountered. No, I will not retreat from these primitives. But even as Ravik spoke, he knew the truth. His fleet was dying. The humans were not just fighting. They were hunting. And his ships were the prey. Admiral Myung watched the battle unfold from her command center. She showed no satisfaction, no joy, just focus. Status of the horizon. Captain Jinho reports 20% damage. All critical systems operational. He is requesting permission to attempt a boarding action on the alien flagship. Myung raised an eyebrow. Boarding action? That is extremely aggressive. Captain Jinho believes we can capture their commander. Force a surrender. Myung considered for a moment, then nodded. Permission granted. But tell him to be careful. We want prisoners, not martyrs. The order transmitted. On the horizon, Jinho smiled. Boarding action approved. Marines, prepare for combat insertion. Let us show these aliens what happens when you threaten our home. The horizon changed course, accelerating directly toward Ravik's flagship. The alien ship fired everything it had. But the human vessel dodged and weaved through the barrage like a dancer avoiding raindrops. Within 30 seconds, the horizon had closed to docking range. Magnetic clamps engaged. Cutting torches burned through the alien hull. And human marines poured into the enemy vessel, ready to fight in the one environment where humanity's evolution gave them an undeniable advantage. Close combat. Ravik heard the breach alarms and felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. The humans were not just winning the space battle, they were coming for him directly. And judging by how this day had gone, he was beginning to understand what Myung had meant when she wished him luck. He was going to need it. The interior of Ravik's flagship became a maze of smoke and flashing emergency lights. Human marines moved through the corridors in small teams, their movements efficient and controlled. They wore armor that looked almost primitive compared to the alien technology around them. But it served its purpose, protection without sacrificing mobility. Sergeant Hyun led the first team through a breached section near the ship's engineering bay. His rifle swept the corridor ahead, checking corners, watching for threats. Behind him, 5 Marines moved in formation, each one covering a different angle. They had trained for this. Urban combat, shipboarding, close quarters, all of it translated to this moment. Contact ahead, Hyun whispered into his comm. 4 aliens armed, taking defensive positions at the intersection. The aliens opened fire first. Energy bolts lit up the narrow corridor, scorching the walls and filling the air with the smell of burned metal. The Marines took cover behind structural supports and returned fire. The exchange lasted maybe 10 seconds. When it ended, all 4 aliens were down, and the Marines had not taken a single casualty. They are not trained for this, Hyun observed. They rely on their weapons too much. No cover discipline. No tactical awareness, he signaled his team forward. Keep moving. Find their command bridge. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out. The aliens had superior weapons technology, but they had no experience with the kind of fighting humans had perfected over thousands of years of warfare. The aliens fired from standing positions, making themselves easy targets. They bunched together instead of spreading out. They retreated in panic when pressed instead of falling back in organized lines. Humans had spent their entire existence fighting each other. They understood violence in a way that species who relied on technological superiority could never match. Every tactic, every formation, every dirty trick that humanity had learned through bloody experience now got used against an enemy who thought numbers and firepower were enough. Captain Jinho moved with the second wave of Marines, pushing deeper into the ship. He held a pistol in one hand and a tactical display in the other, coordinating the various teams as they spread through the vessel like blood through veins. Team 3, seal that corridor. Do not let reinforcements reach the bridge. Team 7, engineering is yours. Shut down their weapons systems but leave life support alone. We want prisoners, not corpses. The ship shuddered as another explosion rocked its frame. Outside, the space battle continued. Jinho could hear the muffled sounds of weapons fire, the deep bass notes of reactor overloads, the high-pitched screams of atmosphere venting into space. Sir, we have located the bridge, a Marine reported. Heavy blast doors, multiple guards. They have fortified the position. Jinho moved to join the team. 20 Marines crouched in the corridor outside the bridge, taking cover behind whatever they could find. The blast doors were massive, designed to withstand ship-to-ship weapons. But they had a weakness. Every door had a control mechanism, and every control mechanism could be hacked or destroyed. Explosives, Jinho ordered. Plant charges on the door mechanism. Small yield. We want it open, not obliterated. While the Marines worked, Jinho activated his comm and broadcast on all frequencies, making sure the aliens inside the bridge could hear him. Attention, alien command crew. This is Captain Jinho of the Earth vessel Horizon. Your ship has been boarded. Your weapons are offline. Your fleet is scattered. You have one opportunity to surrender. Open these doors and place your weapons on the ground. You will be treated as prisoners according to the interstellar conventions your own council drafted. You have 60 seconds to comply. Inside the bridge, Ravik listened to the human's words and felt rage mixing with disbelief. How had everything gone so wrong so quickly? His fleet had been invincible. 500 warships against a primitive species that barely had 60 combat vessels. It should have been a massacre. It was a massacre. Just not the one he had planned. Commander, they have breached the lower decks. Engineering reports they are shutting down our systems section by section. Medical deck is reporting that our casualties cannot fight effectively against the humans. Their physiology is too robust. They can take damage that would kill our soldiers and keep fighting. Thalo stood beside the commander, his face showing the kind of calm acceptance that came from knowing a battle was truly lost. Sir, we should surrender. We can negotiate terms, preserve what lives remain. Never. Ravik slammed his fist against the console. I will not surrender to these animals. We will fight until the blast doors exploded inward, not destroyed. Just the locking mechanism blown apart so the doors swung open freely. Human Marines poured through the gap before the smoke cleared, weapons raised, moving with a speed and aggression that froze the alien bridge crew in place. Weapons down. Now! The Marines shouted in their harsh, direct language. The translators converted it to something the aliens understood, but the meaning was clear in any language. Submit or die. Most of the bridge crew complied immediately. A few tried to raise their weapons and died before they could fire a shot. Jinho walked through the door last, his pistol held low but ready, his eyes scanning the bridge until they found Ravik. Supreme Commander Ravik, Jinho said, reading the rank insignia. I am placing you under arrest. You and your crew will be transported to Earth for processing. Your ships will be impounded. This engagement is over. Ravik stared at the human. Up close, the captain was not physically imposing. Shorter than Ravik, lighter build, no natural weapons. But there was something in his eyes, something that Ravik finally recognized. It was the look of a predator, a hunter, a creature that had survived a world that tried to kill it every single day of its evolution. How? Ravik asked. The word came out broken, defeated. How did you defeat us so easily? Jinho holstered his pistol. You made 3 mistakes, Commander. First, you assumed we were weak because we are young, but young does not mean weak. Second, you assumed your experience fighting other aliens would prepare you for fighting us, but every other species you conquered grew up on peaceful worlds. We did not. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to survive, to adapt, to fight smarter rather than stronger. And third, you forgot the most important rule of warfare. What rule? Never threaten someone's home unless you are prepared to die defending your own. Outside, the battle reached its conclusion. The alien fleet had lost nearly 200 ships. The surviving vessels began broadcasting surrender signals one by one. They had watched their flagship get boarded, their commander captured, and their numbers whittled down by an enemy that refused to fight fair. Admiral Myung accepted each surrender personally, her voice calm and professional. Your crews will be treated well according to interstellar law. Power down your weapons and await further instructions. Any ship that attempts to flee will be destroyed. Any ship that attempts to continue fighting will be destroyed. These are your only 2 options. The alien captains complied. What choice did they have? They had come expecting to conquer. Instead, they learned what every other species in the galaxy was about to discover. Humanity could not be threatened, could not be bullied, and absolutely could not be conquered. In Earth's command center, Sun-Hee allowed herself to relax for the first time in hours. The holographic display showed green markers for human ships and red markers for alien vessels that had surrendered. It was over. They had won. Casualty report, she requested. 37 dead, 112 wounded. 17 ships damaged, 3 destroyed. Considering the odds, it is a miracle. Sun-Hee shook her head. Not a miracle. Preparation, training, and the fact that humans have been fighting wars since we lived in caves. We are very, very good at violence when we need to be. Ambassador Daiho watched the battle's conclusion from his office. He had not doubted the outcome, not really. He had read the reports, studied the simulations, understood what Earth's military was capable of. But seeing it happen in reality was something else. His aide entered the room. Sir, the Galactic Council is requesting an emergency session. They want to discuss the engagement. Of course they do, Daiho said with a slight smile, the same smile he had given Ravik at the start. They just watched a species they considered primitive destroy an enforcement fleet. They are terrified. Good. Fear breeds respect, and respect leads to negotiation. Should I tell them you will attend? Yes, but on our terms. The council meets on our schedule now, not theirs. Make that clear. The aide nodded and left. Daiho turned back to the window, watching the stars where the alien ships had been. He thought about Ravik's question, the one Jinho had answered. How had Earth defeated them so easily? The truth was simple. Humans grew up fighting. Not just other humans, but their entire planet. Diseases that could kill in days. Predators with claws and teeth. Weather that could freeze or burn. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, droughts. Earth had thrown everything it had at humanity for millions of years trying to wipe them out. And humanity won every single fight. They learned, adapted, evolved. They developed persistence, ingenuity, cooperation, and when necessary, absolutely brutal efficiency in combat. By the time humans reached the stars, they were not naive children meeting friendly neighbors. The galactic news networks broadcast the footage within hours. Ships across 100 star systems received the recordings almost simultaneously. The images were clear, undeniable, and absolutely shocking. The Galactic Enforcement Fleet, an armada that had never lost a battle in 10,000 years, had been shattered by a species most of the galaxy considered primitive newcomers. In the council chambers on the Central Governance Station, representatives from 60 species gathered in an emergency session. The massive circular room echoed with clicking, whistling, and translated voices as everyone tried to speak at once. Panic, confusion, and anger filled the air in equal measures. Council Speaker Valen, a tall being covered in blue crystalline skin, struck the resonance gong 3 times. The sound reverberated through the chamber, demanding silence. Order! We will have order in this council. The voices quieted, though the tension remained thick enough to cut. Valen gestured to the central display where footage from the battle played on repeat. Human ships darting between alien vessels like insects, explosions, surrender broadcasts, and most damning of all, the image of Ravik in restraints, defeated and captured. We have convened to address the situation regarding species designation Earth-Human, Valen announced. 3 days ago, Enforcement Fleet 742 was dispatched to integrate their world into the galactic community. The fleet consisted of 500 warships under the command of Supreme Commander Ravik. As you can see, the mission failed catastrophically. Failed? One of the representatives stood, his translator rendering his clicks as indignant. That was not a failure. That was a massacre. 200 ships destroyed, 300 surrendered. The entire fleet neutralized by a species with barely 60 combat vessels. This is unacceptable. Another representative rose. The humans must be punished. They have defied the Council's authority. They have destroyed our property. They have captured one of our most decorated commanders. We must respond with overwhelming force. Respond how? A different voice called out. We just watched them defeat our most powerful fleet. What makes you think a second fleet would fare any better? The chamber erupted into arguments again. Some demanded retaliation. Others called for diplomacy. A few suggested quarantining Earth's entire system to prevent humans from spreading. None of them had answers. None of them had expected this. Valen struck the gong again. Enough. We have received a communication from Earth. Ambassador Deho has requested to address this council. Given the circumstances, I have granted his request. You did what? Several representatives objected simultaneously. You are allowing them to speak here? After what they have done? They have done nothing illegal by our own laws, Valen pointed out. The enforcement action was never officially authorized by this council. It was undertaken by the Enforcement Division independently. Earth had every right under interstellar law to defend itself against an unprovoked attack. That statement caused even more chaos, because Valen was technically correct. The Galactic Enforcement Fleet operated with broad authority, but they were supposed to get council approval before attacking spacefaring civilizations. Ravik had skipped that step, assuming Earth would be an easy conquest that nobody would question afterward. The display screen changed. Deho's face appeared larger than life, his expression calm and professional. He wore the same gray suit from before, but now he had a small flag pin on his collar. The flag of Earth, a blue planet against black space. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council, Deho began, his voice even and measured. Thank you for allowing me to address you. I understand there is concern about the recent engagement between Earth and the Galactic Enforcement Fleet. I am here to provide clarity and to discuss the path forward. You attacked our fleet, one representative shouted. No, Deho corrected gently but firmly. Your fleet attacked us. 500 warships appeared in our system without warning or invitation. Your commander issued an ultimatum threatening to exterminate our entire species if we did not surrender. We responded to an act of aggression in the only reasonable way possible. We defended ourselves. You destroyed 200 ships. We disabled or destroyed vessels that were actively trying to kill us, yes. We also accepted the surrender of 300 vessels once they ceased hostilities. We have treated all prisoners according to the interstellar conventions that your own council drafted. Not a single prisoner has been harmed or mistreated. Can you say the same about how your enforcement fleet treats conquered species? The question hung in the air. Everyone knew the answer. The enforcement fleet had a reputation for brutality. Conquered species were often killed or enslaved. Their worlds were stripped of resources. The council had turned a blind eye to these practices because the fleet maintained order and kept rebellious worlds in line. Valen spoke into the uncomfortable silence. Ambassador Deho, the council would like to understand how Earth was able to defeat such a superior force. Your species is young. Your technology is relatively primitive and your experience in space combat is limited, yet you achieved total victory in less than a day. How? Deho's expression remained neutral, but there was something in his eyes, that same knowing look that had unsettled Ravik. The answer is actually quite simple, Council Speaker. You are asking the wrong question. What do you mean? You are asking how we defeated them. But what you should be asking is why we were able to defeat them. The answer to that question explains everything. Deho pulled up a display behind him. It showed an image of Earth rotating slowly, a beautiful blue and green planet wrapped in white clouds. This is our world. It looks peaceful from space, does it not? But Earth is what your scientific classification system designates as a category, 12 Death World, the highest category, a planet actively hostile to life. He changed the image. Now it showed a massive storm system, winds strong enough to level buildings. Our weather systems regularly produce hurricanes, tornadoes, and typhoons with wind speeds that would tear apart most of your structures. Our tectonic plates shift constantly, causing earthquakes that can topple cities. We have volcanoes that can fill the sky with ash and change our climate for years. Another image, a large predator with sharp teeth and powerful claws. Our planet is filled with creatures that evolved specifically to hunt and kill. We share our world with predators that can run faster than your vehicles, bite through metal, or inject venom that can stop a heart in seconds. Deho let that sink in for a moment, watching the representatives shift uncomfortably. But it gets worse. We also face diseases and parasites that can spread through entire populations in days. We face droughts that can last years, floods that can drown continents, ice ages that cover half the planet. Earth has tried to kill us for millions of years, and we survived all of it. He changed the image again. Now it showed early humans, primitive and vulnerable, standing in a harsh landscape. Our ancestors had no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. They were slow compared to the predators around them. They were weak compared to the large animals that shared their territory. By every measure, they should have gone extinct. But they did not. Do you know why? Nobody answered. They were all listening now, fascinated despite themselves. Because humans learned to adapt. We learned to cooperate. We developed tools, strategies, and tactics. We learned to hunt the hunters, to outlast the storms, to survive the diseases. We developed something unique in this galaxy. We developed the ability to thrive in the worst possible conditions through sheer determination and intelligence. Daiho clasped his hands behind his back. So when your commander arrived at our world and threatened us, he was not threatening a soft species that grew up on a gentle planet. He was threatening a species that has been in a fight for survival since before we had language. He thought his superior technology and numbers would be enough. But he forgot that humans have been defeating superior enemies for our entire history. We are very good at it. The council chamber was silent. The representatives looked at each other, beginning to understand. Your enforcement fleet operates on the assumption that overwhelming force equals victory, Deho continued. That works fine against species that evolved on peaceful worlds. Species that developed technology before they developed warfare. Species that think battles are won through superior equipment. But humans are different. We have been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years. We understand violence, strategy, and tactics in ways that your fleet commanders never learned. He brought up footage from the battle. Human ships moving in unpredictable patterns, striking from unexpected angles, coordinating without formal structure. You see chaos. We see flexibility. You see disorder.
We see adaptability.
This is how humans fight. We do not follow your rules because your rules were written by species that never had to evolve on a death world. Another representative stood. She spoke carefully, her translator rendering her song-like language as measured words. Ambassador, are you saying that humanity is inherently violent? That we should fear you? Deho shook his head. No, I am saying that humanity understands violence. There is a difference. We prefer peace. We want to join the galactic community as equals and friends, but we will not be conquered. We will not be threatened. 6 months after the battle, Ambassador Deho walked through the grand corridors of the Galactic Council Station for the first time as an official representative. The negotiations had been long and sometimes difficult, but they had reached an agreement. Earth was now a full member of the galactic community with all rights and protections that status provided. The station itself was enormous, a structure the size of a small moon that housed representatives from 60 species. The architecture mixed styles from across the galaxy, creating a space that felt both alien and welcoming. Deho passed beings of every shape and size. Some walked on legs, others floated, and a few moved in ways that seemed to defy physics entirely. Many of them stared at him as he passed. Some looks were curious, others were cautious, and a few showed open respect. The story of Earth's defense had spread across the entire galaxy. Humanity's reputation had been established in a single day. They were the species that defeated an enforcement fleet. They were the survivors from a death world. They were the ones you did not threaten unless you wanted a fight. Deho arrived at the council chamber where the formal induction ceremony would take place. Inside, the representatives had already gathered. The room buzzed with quiet conversation as species that had never agreed on anything discussed the newest member of their community. Council Speaker Valen stood at the center podium, his crystalline skin reflecting the light from overhead. He struck the resonance gong once, calling the session to order. Representatives of the Galactic Council, we gather today to formally welcome Earth and humanity into our community. This is a historic moment. We expand our alliance to include a species that has proven itself capable, determined and resilient. He gestured to Deho. Ambassador, would you approach the podium? Deho walked forward calmly, his footsteps echoing slightly in the massive chamber. He stood before the assembled representatives and took a moment to look at each of them. These beings represented civilizations thousands or even millions of years old, and yet here he was, speaking for a species that had barely left its own solar system a few centuries ago. Honored representatives, Deho began, I stand before you today with gratitude and humility. 6 months ago, our species faced a crisis that could have ended in our extinction. Today we stand as equals among the stars. This is not just a victory for Earth. This is a new beginning for all of us. One of the representatives, a being covered in purple feathers, spoke up. Ambassador Deho, before we proceed with the formal induction, I believe many of us would appreciate some clarity. We have all seen the footage of the battle. We have all heard the reports, but there are still questions about humanity's intentions. You have proven yourselves to be formidable warriors. How can we trust that you will not become the very threat we all feared? It was a fair question, and Deho had expected it. I understand your concern. Let me be very clear about who humanity is and what we want. Yes, we can fight. Yes, we are dangerous when threatened, but that is not our nature. That is our survival instinct. He pulled up a holographic display showing images from Earth. Cities filled with art and music, parks where children played, libraries filled with books, hospitals where doctors worked to save lives. This is who we are when we are not fighting for survival. We are builders, creators, explorers. We write poetry and paint pictures. We build communities and help each other. We reach out to the stars not because we want to conquer, but because we want to understand. The image changed to show the aftermath of the battle with Ravik's fleet. Human medical teams treating wounded alien prisoners. Human engineers repairing damaged alien ships. Human diplomats negotiating the return of survivors to their home worlds. Look at what we did after the battle. We could have executed our prisoners. We could have destroyed the surrendered ships. We could have claimed territory through right of conquest. But we did none of those things. We treated our enemies with mercy and respect because that is who we choose to be. Another representative spoke, this one a being made of what looked like living water, but you have proven you can defeat any force sent against you. What is to stop humanity from deciding they should rule the galaxy instead of joining it? Deho smiled. The same thing that stopped us from wiping out Ravik's entire fleet when we had the chance. Choice. Humans understand violence because we have experienced it for millions of years. But we also understand that violence is a tool, not a goal. We fight when we must. We prefer to build when we can. And we choose to join this council as partners because we believe cooperation creates better outcomes than domination. He paused, letting his words sink in. I will not stand here and promise that humanity is perfect. We are not. We have flaws, we make mistakes, and we sometimes let our emotions guide us when logic should prevail. But we are also capable of great compassion, incredible creativity, and unwavering loyalty to those we call friends. We want to be those friends to all of you. Valen nodded slowly. Well said, Ambassador. Does any representative wish to object to Earth's induction into the Council? Silence filled the chamber. No one spoke. 6 months ago, half the Council would have objected, but the battle had changed everything. Not just because humanity won, but because of how they won and what they did afterward. They had proven themselves to be strong but not cruel, powerful but not tyrannical. Then, by unanimous consent, I formally welcome Earth and humanity into the Galactic Council. You are granted all rights, responsibilities, and protections afforded to member species. Welcome, Ambassador Deho. The chamber erupted in a mixture of sounds that the translators struggled to interpret. But the meaning was clear. Applause, acceptance, welcome. On Earth, Admiral Myung watched the ceremony broadcast from her office in the Orbital Command Center. The battle felt like a lifetime ago now, though it had only been 6 months. Her fleet had been repaired and expanded. New ships were being built in orbital yards. Earth was preparing not for war, but for the responsibilities that came with being part of a larger community. Captain Jinho entered her office, carrying a data pad. "Admiral, the latest reports from the Frontier Patrol. All quiet. No unauthorized ships, no threats, no incidents. Good." Myung turned away from the screen. "How is the crew of the Horizon? Everyone recovered from the battle?" "Mostly. We lost some good people that day. But the survivors are doing well. Many of them have been transferred to training positions, teaching the next generation of pilots everything they learned." Myung nodded. "That is how it should be. We won that battle because we were prepared, trained, and ready to do whatever was necessary. But I hope we never have to fight like that again." "You think there will be more threats?" "Maybe. The galaxy is large and not everyone will accept us as equals just because the Council voted to welcome us. But we have sent a message. Touch Earth and you will regret it. For most species, that message will be enough." Down on Earth's surface in a small restaurant in Seoul, Sunhee sat with her tactical team celebrating their success. They were civilians again, at least for now. The emergency that had pulled them into active duty was over, but they all knew they could be called back at any moment if Earth faced another crisis. "Do you think they will really accept us?" one of her team members asked. "The aliens, I mean. 6 months ago they tried to conquer us. Now we are supposed to be friends?" Sunhee sipped her tea thoughtfully. "Acceptance takes time. We proved we cannot be conquered. Now we need to prove we are worth having as allies. That is a different kind of challenge, but one I think humanity can handle. Because we are good at adapting. Because we are good at surviving. And sometimes survival means knowing when to fight and when to build bridges." In the Galactic Council station, the ceremony continued with formal speeches and procedural declarations. But Daeho's mind wandered to the events that had brought them here. Ravik's attack. The battle. The negotiations. All of it had started with a simple moment. An ultimatum and a smile. That smile had said everything. It said, "You made a mistake." It said, "We are not afraid of you." It said, "You are about to learn a lesson you will never forget." And the galaxy had learned. They learned that humanity could not be pushed around. They learned that survivors from a death world had capabilities that most species could not imagine. They learned that threatening Earth was a very, very bad idea. After the ceremony ended, Daeho found himself in a side chamber with several other ambassadors who wanted to speak with him privately. One of them was Thelos, Ravik's former second-in-command. The alien had been released from custody 2 months earlier after cooperating fully with the investigation into the unauthorized attack. "Ambassador Daeho," Thelos said, his posture showing respect. "I wanted to thank you personally for your treatment of the prisoners. Many of us expected far worse." "You were soldiers following orders," Daeho replied simply. "We do not punish people for that. We do, however, hold commanders accountable for their decisions." "Ravik is still on Earth?" "Yes. He is serving a 10-year sentence for ordering an attack on a civilian population. But his conditions are fair. He has access to education, communication with his family, and the opportunity to appeal if he believes his trial was unjust. When his sentence is complete, he will be free to return home."